I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Tom.
Yes.
We don't review a lot of gothic rock on this channel.
True.
So, I mean, it's kind of cool when we find an artist who does gothic rock, who is also willing to experiment, who also does a lot of different cool things with guitar and her vocals. Chelsea Wolfe is who I'm talking about. She has a new album. This is her 4th album. She is, now gothic rock, I feel like, as far as what this album, and from what we've heard the past few days that we've been reviewing this, I don't feel like that you know how I feel about putting genre labels on albums, and I don't feel like you can really call this gothic rock.
I agree, you know, and to me...
By the way, the new album is called Pain is Beauty.
Yes. Now, which, quite a gothic title, but but what I was going to say is that I think that when it comes to the term goth or gothic, it's less about a style and more about a mood, more about a mindset. However you choose to achieve that mood through whatever instrumental palette and kind of vibe you're going for, it's really more about the destination than how you get there. And so if you're describing it that way, then I would say it's a pretty apt way to characterize Pain is Beauty.
Yeah, because this is a very darkly mooded album.
It very much is. And Chelsea Wolfe, especially in her vocals, I mean, you could call her a singer-songwriter, but that also has the wrong connotation because that implies something completely different. I would almost call her more of a composer. Because the way these songs come together, you don't get an image of her just sitting with an acoustic guitar, even though she does play some acoustic guitar. She even last year came out with an acoustic album. But on this album, you just see her more as just this force behind this just barrage of sound. A lot of great drum arrangements. That's something I wanted to jump into right away. I tell you, the best way you can set your music apart from just the standard run-of-the-mill pop or rock stuff is to use auxiliary percussion. Make it sound like people are just banging on like tribal drums and all sorts of that stuff.
And you hear that throughout this album.
Oh yeah, through the entire album.
And one thing that Chelsea Wolfe does on Pain is Beauty that I really got into is she really has a finite understanding of the dynamic contrast she needs to provide on every track to have that emotional appeal to bring the listener in and get them sucked into the music. Starting off with track 1 on Feral Love. So this album, from you know what we know, this is taking her music into a little bit of an electronic direction at times. You know, there's definitely some electronic beats and melodies here. Starting off with Feral Love, you have that pounding beat with a little bit of that electronic melody, and then it just builds and builds and builds. That song, by the end of it, has this huge cascade of sound. And several songs on this album follow that format. It just really shows that she has an ability to craft her songs in a way that get your attention and really pack that emotional punch.
Yeah, and the way she does it is just perfect. She executes it with such deliberation. Nothing is accidental here, and she's able to achieve a lot in a relatively short amount of time, really. I mean, this isn't a short album, it's just under an hour, but I mean track by track. The tracks that are really successful. And that actually kind of transitions into, well, maybe my one big gripe about this album. I'll just get out of the way because I really like this album overall, but there are a few tracks that just aren't up to par with some of the amazing quality tracks that are on here. I'd say, like, pretty much all my track picks from this album are going to be some of my favorite of the year. But then there are a few that just don't quite live up to it. One I'm going to point out in particular is track 11, The Waves Have Come. That's an 8.5-minute kind of epic track. And the sound is somewhat similar to what you've heard earlier in the album, and I would even go as far to say that some of the tracks earlier on the album, she's able to accomplish the same goal only in a shorter amount of time. She's more efficient with it. So by the time you get to that long track as the second to last track, I don't feel like it's as effective as it could be. Now, it's not a bad song, but just, you know, I compare it to like the two before it, Ancestors, The Ancients, They'll Clap When You're Gone, and the first track, Feral Love, which were all track picks of mine, just knocked it out of the park for me. And then that song I just felt like was a lesser but longer version of those tracks.
Yeah, and I feel like that we kind of validate that opinion because I feel the exact same way and picked very similar tracks this year. So, I mean, I definitely feel like there's a little bit of displacement here, and I think that, you know, one thing that Chelsea Wolfe could have done is to make this album a bit more cohesive, because there is at times where it does feel a bit on the compilation side of things. Yes, the relative theming and moods of the tracks are very similar. You know, she does do a good job of presenting a variety of different tracks here, where you have songs that are more singer-songwriter based, songs that are more harder, heavy rock based, and songs that are more electronic based. There's a good blend of each. So as far as like the instrumentation is concerned and the actual sound that you hear, there is a decent variety. What I get, where I struggle to connect the dots amongst this album is you know, these tracks are just so moody, but you never really get a reason as to why. And I really want, whenever I hear an artist do a certain motif or present the album in a certain context, I want reasons as to why. I want to be sucked in a little bit more. And you can do a number of things, and I think Chelsea Wolfe does a lot of things right. It's just one thing that she could have done to taken this to the very next level is package it in a way that really drives home a solid reason as to why these are so moody, why there's so much darkness in this sound.
You know, that's a good point. I don't think I really got that. I see where you're coming from, and typically I'd agree with you. Here, it didn't really have that effect on me, and I think it's more just because of my listening preferences. I love music that scares the crap out of me. So if you're honestly able to achieve that through just the sheer mystery of your sound and power of your performance, and even though the lyrics, I can't, you know, you get general themes, but they don't necessarily tell a story.
No, they don't.
And I think that's kind of what you were getting at, right? I mean, not that you were looking for a concept or a storyline with specific people or anything. I know that you weren't looking for that, but for me, just all of those things coming together was enough for me. But at the same time, I know where you're coming from. I feel that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you read the Wikipedia page for this, Chelsea Wolfe is quoted as saying this album is about idealistic love, and the title, Pain is Beauty, is all about how, you know, we have to go through pain in our lives, and through that we become wiser people and live more beautiful lives. You know, these are great concepts. That's a very artistic and kind of, you know, just very heady way of looking at the subject matter. However, that none of that comes through in the music at all, unless you were to dig that out. I want to hear more of those ideas in the music and really bring that out as a piece. I just think that would have like tied the bow around this really nice package that she's presenting us in this dark ass album. So overall, I really liked it. I did feel that there was a little bit of track displacement I would have liked to have cleaned up. What are you going to give this?
I'm giving this an 82.
I'm going to be a little bit below you, 81.
All right.
So 82 from us as we average it out and round up. It is a very solid album. Pain is Beauty is definitely one we would recommend to you guys. Now, if you haven't heard of Chelsea Wolfe or haven't listened to Pain is Beauty, we'd really like you guys to go out, listen to it, and give us some feedback. What were your thoughts and experiences with Pain is Beauty? Leave us a comment at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. As always, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and let us know what albums from 2013 you've been into lately and would like to see Tom and I review. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.